Number 1, civil target is 94, Bravo, 65. 20, low. Overline.
Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? Friday night, for most of us, the week is over. Hopefully that's the case for you. It's a little chilly here in northern Michigan, but hey, you know what? It's supposed to be the second day of spring, and 40 degrees just isn't cutting it for me. So Mother Nature can be a witch. Let's see who we got so far coming in. Curtis, how we doing? We'll kill a couple minutes here waiting for people to come in. Topic for tonight, I'm gonna roll with what we did last week, and we will chat and kind of let the chat dictate where we go. I got an idea of what we're going to talk about, and just going to send little sister wants a link to the channel, so hey, you know what, we got to send it when they ask for it. Anyway, so yeah, we'll get a couple more people in here hopefully. I know spring break is happening, so probably a lot of people out on the road, and be safe, be smart. Obviously, tourist towns are going to be thriving, and people will be more than anxious to relieve you of your hard-earned vacation money when applicable. But we'll let chat. I think kind of last week I was going to read for some books. We did a little bit of that, and then we got going on Bigfoot conversation, Bigfoot language. So it was actually pretty interesting once that happened. So it went far better than I could even hope. And tonight, what I thought I would do is we're kind of going to hit on a little bit of everything at this point. I've had people suggest, some people are still interested in the whole peanut butter fiasco and why I think certain jars were Bigfoot, why I think certain jars were animals. Obviously, animals got the majority of the little ones. We definitely had animals getting hold of big ones. But I digress. We had a little bit of that. I did find a couple tracks hidden in my photos I had long forgotten about. And I thought I would share those with you too. See just some of the stuff that is being discovered in this little area. I've talked quite a bit about the fact that the tinfoil on the peanut butter jars was perfectly peeled most of the time. I do have pictures of that, and the fact that it was one of the smaller jars and the fact that it's peeled so perfectly is to me even more remarkable, because if you're talking something even over 6 feet tall with this, if it's a supposed Squatch, you're still talking several hundred pounds, obviously depending on the individual, but I'm 6 foot, at the time was 300, and I know they are way bigger than I was, and I don't have the dexterity to peel the tinfoil off the way they do. But someone did it. So, and please, if you enjoy it, hit like, subscribe. We're on every week, Friday night at 9 o'clock. So you can tune in. We got some exciting things in the works coming up in April. Can't talk a lot about it, but it's going to be some good stuff. Good for potential little movie thing going. We'll talk more about that as time allows me to. There is some writing in progress on my part. We'll keep people posted on that as well if you're interested in it. Bodybuilding show is still on track despite having some health issues. But hey, what's life without a little fun? Mr. Virgil Crane from England is here. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, we are going to, why don't we kick off with a few pictures. Maybe we'll dive into the pictures first. Although the language thing, that still gets me because, I was just now thinking about it, the different forms of communication, different languages, sign language and stuff like that, and how it would be so hard to keep track of because our language changes almost daily now. If you think about it, you think about words that we used to use when you're, oh man, you're sick. That was gross, disgusting. And somehow in my lifetime, oh hell, Bigfoot researchers here, how we doing? Yet somehow in my lifetime, sick went from gross to sick is awesome now. So I never know if I should tell somebody that I'm feeling sick or if they're going to think I'm just feeling awesome when I tell them that. There's all kinds of other words that have just transitioned into things that are words that we didn't even use, now words we can't use. So language is pretty interesting, and maybe we'll deep dive into that. If you can think right offhand, this piece, it's amazing that this finger is number one, but you start to put down, well, we can't go all the way there, but that means a whole nother meaning. So English is the second language behind it. And who decided what that middle finger meant? I'd like to know that one too. Virgil, lots of love and get better soon, brother. Thank you. Some of these things are just going to be lifetime adjustments, and this is one of these things where you need to get your blood work done. I'm going to preach a little bit about that, and then we'll get into some pictures. Now that I brought it up, so let's run with it and get it out of the way. At one point I weighed 373 pounds, as a lot of people know. Currently I'm 248. I'm thinking by the time this show comes around, I'll be in the 220s, maybe 219. But even with all the health changes, lifestyle changes, dietary changes, losing over 123 pounds now, pushing 124. A few weeks ago, it'll be 3 weeks now. One night I was sweating profusely, couldn't figure out what was going on. I could not drink enough water. And at one point I had issues with low blood sugar, so I went to check. I got my meter. First time using a meter. All it did was give a tone and say high. And in my mind, I'm like, well, what's that mean? High for what? High for who? How high? Where's the number? So I read the directions again, and it said to wash your hands, dry them, and then turn around and do it again. So I repeated this 3 times and got a tone all 3 times. And it wound up, I Googled it, my blood sugar was well over 600. So, and I wound up going to the doctor on Monday because I still couldn't, even without eating and moving around a lot, excuse me, without doing all that or having any sugar whatsoever, even when I got it Monday morning, it was still in the 300s. So I go to the hospital or my doctors and say, hey, am I reading this right? showed them, they looked at the meter and showed the readings for the past 10 times. And they're like, yeah, you're reading it right. We're going to get you in right now. Which my doctor's booked 3 weeks out, so I was nervous. Turns out I have been officially diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. To me, it's not a big deal. But when I did see my doctor, I asked him how. And basically, I'm going to just blurt it out there, shitty genetics. Because it does run on my mom's side of the family very heavily. I don't know too much about my dad's, but on my mom's side, it runs rampant. And so when I got that news, I called my mom, said, hey, thanks for the donation. I'm type 2 diabetic now. Virtual Crane, I'm a very senior nurse in Manchester. You can watch your diet. Oh, absolutely. I've taken all my in diabetes education because even though I've been a personal trainer, exactly how the carbs work, I don't know. So I'm learning all that. There's things about artificial sweeteners, that certain ones will actually cause the same reaction as sugar. And so it spikes your insulin and messes your blood sugar all up. There are certain ones, Alethra or Eleuthera, that are in some, they're called legendary Pop-Tarts. Shout out to them because they have taken care of my craving for Pop-Tarts. On cheat days, 20 grams of protein, less than 1 gram of sugar. Absolutely marvelous. But the sweetener in that will kill your dog. Sorry, unalive your dog. Please, YouTube, strike that accident. Unalive your dog because of kidney failure. So, don't give any legendary Pop-Tarts to your puppies if you want them. But anyway, so yeah, diet's a big thing. And since they got me on some 3 different medications, life's been a lot better. Definitely noticed changes in moods, energy levels. Everything's on the upswing there. So we got a couple more hurdles to clear as far as health, but it'll be a piece of cake. And we will be back in the woods as soon as the snow allows. We will also be on stage in October, so let's go. Okay, so enough of the wool me crap. Let's look at some pictures. So I've talked about before and have shown a few times what peanut butter jars look like when I think Bigfoot took them. So, this one had the lid smashed in. Most of the ones, I don't believe, a lot of them don't have a mark on the lid, but they still get this clean, and sometimes the lids are back on the jars. This one I saved, I do believe, nope, that's not the fingerprints. There's some hair in there. Don't know what it is, but, and this, I mean, it's licked clean. And the tin foil was pretty well taken off. You can see almost like fingernail marks there. Anyway, so there's a physical example of what I'm talking about, peanut butter jars, and I'll pull one up here so we can see it as well. What I'm talking about, the tin foil, will show that even this little jar, found with the lid on it, perfectly clean. So, there is no peanut butter left in there whatsoever. And the tin foil, take this one down, add this one. Look at that. I mean, even the tab is somehow still on that peanut butter jar. I opened 4 jars of peanut butter last night just to see if I could do this, and I can't do it. I even use the big ones because of my big fat fingers. Now, imagine being 300 or 400 pounds, that kind of dexterity, being able to peel that little tiny thing off with perfection all the way around. So I don't think a trash panda did that. I don't think a possum did it. Here's an example of what we find when animal for sure, tops punctured here, tin foil still on, that hole lines up with that. And then when you look at the jar itself, lots of peanut butter left, claw marks all over, even at the top where they can get at it really easy. Still peanut butter. It's not lit completely clean. That's one jar. Even on the bigger jars, you can see where they go is not completely clean. So look at that jar. Now look at this jar. And you can see the difference in why I think something else other than raccoons or possums or anything running around on four legs was taking the peanut butter. I can't say is because we are all been feeding them thanks to a promise I made to the DNR so I don't get booted out of my area. Let's see. And here's a couple other things found. I thought some of these, I was 300 pounds at the time, and I jumped straight up and down, and I can't make a print in these rocks. Yeah, here we go. We got what look like toes up here in the rocks. And yeah, my heel is back a little bit, but at the same time, look how deep they are. And you can even see up at the top here what looked like the beginning of toes, a break. Obviously, the heel hit and lift. Another one beside it. And this is a, no small foot. This is a size 15. So this is a pretty good sized track going on the pebble. It obviously weighs quite a bit. Those, that's why, sometimes it's just so hard to try to, I wish I could find a track to cast, but I've only found one, and because I was lazy and hadn't practiced with the plaster, I screwed it up. So here's an instance of where it looks like a friend of mine draw the lines. He's a tracker. I am not. I am sure I have missed way more prints than what I have found. But here was an instance where it looked like they actually stepped across each other's tracks, because you have this that he was kind enough to draw out, and then what looks like an even bigger track stepping over it, going, not parallel, opposite, not even opposite, across the track anyway. So you could tell there's more than one individual traveling out there. And I had forgotten about this one. So it's one track, another possible heel. So maybe there's a double step there from somebody. This track, another heel down here. So this was stepped in. So to me, they do try to minimize the amount of tracks they leave by, walking behind each other and not beside each other. Maybe as close as they can to the tracks. If they're paying attention, maybe they're worried about people finding them in a certain area when they walk in the open like this. So I have more pictures. I'm just going to take a little time to download them here, because we only get so many per page. We can't be stingy. And yeah, there's so much stuff, and I wish I'd been a little more diligent in logging things. I've had a friend even make me an app, and I was still too lazy to do that. So let's see here. Get some more photos up. Anybody have questions on anything I've shown so far? Here we go. This was a cool one. I asked him if he saw anything, and that's why we got the red circle here. So as you can see, all these branches somehow got laid across in that tree. And there's some, good sized branches. to make like an asterisk or a spider web or whatever you want to say, but more of a 3D look to it with the way the branches are laid. So it's either a very bored human or a very bored Bigfoot. This was this one's fairly close to the ground, so I'm thinking maybe a juvenile, or maybe it's just a low key marker. Hey, the peanut butter's over here, kind of thing. There are also some other ones here we'll take a look at. So here, I'd lost a couple tape measures at this point. So I had an axe handle and I marked off 15 inches. Well, Bigfoot, they do that in Ohio too. It's got to be some kind of universal thing because you see pictures of it from like California, um, Washington, and they're not always huge. People take a lot of pictures of the really big ones, which is really cool. But at the same time, how many of the littler ones have they missed that might be some kind of, like I said, maybe they're markers for pathways, because at first glance, if you're not looking, it just kind of looks like deadfall. But when you look and realize that that's really out of place, it's really interesting. And there were a whole bunch of these imprints. This was just one of the clearer ones in the dirt. So as you can see from axe tip, that mark on the axe handle was 15 inches. You get a lot of these. Um, but because this leaf is so dense, it's so hard to dig. Even if you dig down under the leaves are so thick, there's not much underneath them to take a photograph or a cast. There have been a couple that were, a few good toe imprints, or it'd be a really good heel imprint, but then the leaves were just pulled from where you can see where they, rocked forward on their toes and pushed it with their toes. So the evidence is there. It's just trying to see it, and luckily, to me, the secret is not the secret. One of the things to do, in my opinion, because I am no expert, I am an enthusiast, I am not a freaking researcher. So this is for fun for me. This is why I do this. And then with everything going on, I just want to share stuff I have found and things that have been experienced. So other people can, maybe something I did will work for people. The whole habituation thing. No, this was one of those I was talking about where you can see, pretty good toes, but then you only get just a faint imprint of a heel because of the way the leaves are on the ground. But this was a nice wide track. You can see here and here, cleared out the acorns as it lifted. You got toes here. And this was the only time in 4 years I ever found 19-inch tracks out there. I can't zoom in. Anyway, so if you look, we're close to the 19-inch mark right in here somewhere. And it was the only time I found them, and they led right up to a cherry tree that had been carried from somewhere and then stuck upside down with the root ball in the air. And it was a big cherry tree. It had to be 8-9 feet with the root ball up in the air. So what I was thinking, and again, speculation, I didn't see him do it. I'm not professing that. I'm not claiming for sure. I'm not willing to fall on a sword that these were of a male kind of making the rounds and hoping to impress a female out there by show of strength, or maybe claim new territory by show of strength. The biggest problem for him is the fact that we'll show this just as a reminder. Let's see. That this guy happened to be out there. So you got a 19-inch track, but here you got a 23-inch track. If I could zoom in, you can see toes. It's with the snow is really cool because you got the kick out here with the heel, which Bigfoot do. Patty proved that in the Patterson Gimlin film, where their heel kicks out in order for their hips to rotate forward. Ohio Bigfoot researchers are on it. That was a male. That's what I'm thinking. So thank you for confirming that. But I'm sure this guy, if he caught wind of him, that 19-incher didn't hang around too long because I never found him again. First time before and never since. So let's see, we'll get rid of these. And there was also, I'll show you another example of a peanut butter jar here. What the animal peanut butter jars look like. What's weird is there's just this little hole here, little hole here. I think I talked about this one already, but this one still blows my mind that you got just this little tiny hole. And yet on the inside, they got all the way around it. Let's see if I did the picture with the tinfoil back. Nope. Anyway, when I pull the tinfoil back, there's marks all the way through here. So just from that little tiny hole, he was able to get in with his grubby little paws and steal Harry and the Hendersons' dinner. So yeah, there was, I can't wait to get back out this year. We just got so much snow that my little Malibu will not go back there. Let's see, who's the next one? Oh, I don't know if I covered this week. Oops. Here's one that can definitely be open for discussion. Let's see. Squirrels did that. I think definitely right because we actually caught. I saw a squirrel running with a peanut butter jar, and it looked like a mongoose because he had the top of the jar in his mouth. So the bottom half of the jar was dragging on the ground, so he had to have his head so high. It was almost like he was running like one of those Jesus lizards. And then we also, oh, I'll have to find that picture. Biggest black squirrel I've ever seen in my life. Even next to a picture of another black squirrel, he was twice as big as a normal black squirrel. And to turn around and see him face first in the peanut butter jar was hilarious. So this one was, unfortunately, I had to use the yellow line, but to me, this is what somebody pointed out to me. I sent it to somebody. Yeah. And you got a face over a tree. You got a mouth here, a couple nostrils here, eye here, outline of a big face because this was well over 9 feet in the air, and then top of the head. Now, is it? Don't know for sure. I'm not willing to go overboard on that one, but that was what somebody pointed out to me. So, it definitely could be. But, maybe some pareidolia is coming in on both of ours and wishful thinking. Hey, Rebecca, how you doing? So we're just going over some pictures right now. You have to go back and watch the beginning. Little Twisted, good to see you. Got more people sliding in, which is always nice. Again, I am definitely open for a discussion. Right now, we're just going through some pictures. So this one was open for debate as to who it is or what it is. There is also a few others. We can look at a couple from that we looked at a couple weeks ago too, just to refresh and compare the peanut butter jars, because we just saw the animal ones. So now if you look at this one compared to what the squirrel did, the lid's off it, not a mark on it, but a couple great big greasy fingerprints here. So now you can see why I can semi-safe make the leap of going from, an animal did it to Bigfoot, because, there's not a mark on the top of this lid. There wasn't a mark on the lid when we found it. The wrapper, if I remember right, was just one big strip. It hadn't been just sliced and peeled off perfectly. So again, this was the end of an era, though. No more peanut butter for me. No more peanut butter for them, as far as I know. There's somebody else out there giving it to them now. But yeah, we're looking to get back out there soon. And rid of this. So we've talked about health. We talked about where else were we going to go. Interesting things on the internet too. Some of the, let's see. I don't know if you saw some of these pictures last week, Ohio Bigfoot, or let's see what we can, maybe you can look at a couple of these and see if you think the same thing that other people have sent me, like these guys. So yes, these have the red circles because somebody had to point them out to me, but we could hear wood knocks and no whistles, but something, it just felt like something was watching. What hair I had left was standing up. And so took a couple pictures. I had to learn to do share screen so I can enlarge these, but this one was really cool. I didn't see this one. This one stood out. You've got one leaning out, down, and you can even catch the arm hanging out as it's rolling over to the side. And then I think the reason they were hanging around is because I think this was a juvenile back here, because it's kind of squatted down. I do have a second laptop now, folks, so we'll be doing screen sharing very, very soon. And then we'll zoom in on these and get everybody's opinions too, because I am always open for that. Linda Thompson, yeah, no potatoes. They never took any potatoes. Linda knows that for sure. No matter what position they're in, cut them open, leave them closed, didn't matter. Lines, fingerprints, circle are kind of straight. I would have to unpack that jar and find out. I honestly don't remember. The reason why it's packed up now is because of the fact that I had talked to Dr. Melba Ketchum, and she actually responded. I was quite surprised, because that was 2 or 3 years ago. And of course, you had the whole, people were really trashing her over that whole um, Olympic project, I believe it was, where they had the Bigfoot DNA. And so the fact that she took the time out to message me, she had given me the name of a gentleman who was in California who would have been able to uh, take those prints off if he was still in the game. But she thought he was retired, but maybe he would have a look at them. And I called, left 2 messages, never got anything back. So I'm assuming he was out of the game and didn't even want to play at that point. So it's still packed up, just like the fudgesicle in the freezer and the sweet and low box. I'm hoping maybe someday somebody will want to take a look at them. And actually, with this new project coming up, I might be in touch with somebody who can actually help me out with that. We can solve a couple mysteries, because the fingers are twice as long as mine, at least, just from what's left on the jar, and twice as fat. But with a couple connections I've been lucky enough to make, maybe, just maybe, I'll know more in April. We can get some answers. So I know Ohio, they are definitely your typical blob squatch pictures, but it was the best we could do at the time, just taking blind photos. Actually, I will share one, if you'll bear with me while I talk, while I try to text at the same time. I'll get this uploaded real quick, because then you can see that there's definitely, this one will be from Manistee County. This picture was taken by Lance Eby. I was there. I've got the recordings. I've got my own pictures, but his picture is just way better than mine. So I'm going to throw this up there. And I got a picture of his brother, but his brother, when we were looking at it, you can see his head sticking on one side of the tree and then his butt and his feet on the other side. So it's not as clear as what I'm going to throw up there here. As soon as we find him, I think you guys will, it's definitely worth the wait. So sorry about this. Yeah, that one kind of jumped out at me. And so that would have been 50 yards, maybe. It was just down at maybe 60. Down the hill, and then just starting up the other side of the valley. There were two of them. Like I said, we had heard tree knocks from that area and looking, and that was why I just knew something was watching. So that was why I started snapping pictures, and someone pointed it out to me who has way better eyes than I do. So we're coming up here quick. Here we go. Sunless. And oh, I can't download it because I'm gonna log out. Crap. All right, we'll save that one for next week. But we're gonna see big tree peaker. So be ready for that one. You know, I can kind of hold it up here on my phone. Actually, kind of cool the way the light hits it, makes it stand out all the more. So that was the one when I made the reference of the fact that we had gone out to a new place along the Manistee River, came across a few babies, and within coming up on those within 2 minutes of coming up on the babies, we started hearing whistles, tree knocks, and a whoop. And within just a few more seconds, they had half that distance coming up to protect their babies. which, that whole trip started with my friend getting out of the car and doing a big Ohio howl, which I just wanted to kick him right in the family jewels. That Ohio howl, I think, is always a challenge. So, yeah, you're going to get a reaction, but it's not one that you're going to be able to get too many more reactions without, potential harm, that's for sure. Yeah, they were Ohio Bigfoot researchers. Yeah, you can see it standing there, a little twisted. That's a great pick, Brian. Yeah, and that was the smaller of the two. So he was pushing 8 feet, but he wasn't as thick as the black one. That one was kind of a dark brown, but there was a black one that was standing just off to the side of him coming across. And I got a picture, like I said, behind a very similar tree, but you got the head out here and then you got the butt and the foot out the other way. That one's a lot more impressive. So that's why I showed that. And then we also saw a brown shaped, I saw it to the right. So I thought there were three of them there, while my friend said he thought he saw two on the ground. So he was thinking five, because in some of his other pictures, he's got like almost like the spider crawl, but the butt's a little higher in the air. So you can see, and these pictures haven't been shown anywhere else as far as podcasts. So you guys are seeing it live and in color first. And yeah, so like I said, I've sent these people and nobody's aired them, but now that we're doing the show, why not get them out there and show them? Lenny, how you doing? Good evening, Brian. We'll twist in everyone in chat. Ohio Bigfoot, never long. Yeah, that's what I found out very, very quickly. If you got one, there's a whole bunch more you don't know about. So if you see one, folks, watch your back, because there are definitely a few more hanging around. And if you're even thinking about doing something a little naughty and getting aggressive, Holly, I should resend you my pictures with the fingers covered in the face from the mountain. Yeah, we could show those, because I swear to God, in the pictures Holly's got, I mean, they're jet black. You can see the leather on the fingers, and it's actually hand on his face. And then she has another picture where it's a similar picture, but he's, we'll use this finger. Looks like he's giving you the finger. That's why I say some of those sign languages are just universal, because even Bigfoot knows how to flip you off. Get a picture of this type of thing. Anybody have questions so far? Anybody want to go back over anything? Definitely want to upload some more of these pictures and get people's thoughts. I got that audio. Unfortunately, I don't know if you'll hear it off my phone. I can try it. For some reason, I can't get it to come up on there. It's only about a minute long. I'll turn it up and try it. See if we can't get it out there. Let's see. Because it's the growling that's impressive. It's 53 seconds. Let me know if you don't hear it. Then we'll turn around, and once I'm able to do screen sharing, we'll be able to get this even better. So we'll see what happens. So I don't know if you heard that, but those growls were definitely. And if you didn't, we'll play it again when I can screen share. Little Twist is laughing. Hey, it's not my fault. I did not. Lenny didn't hear anything. Gosh darn it. All right. So there's another little nugget for the future. We'll get those laptops synced up and then I can share the audio. Twist is laughing at me because of Holly's picture. It's not my fault Bigfoot knows the finger. Probably seen it in the woods with the way people are. Say something, get somebody the bird, and maybe he turns around and thinks he's. Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasted 53 seconds of it. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. It's probably the mic filter. So I know a lot of you didn't see the pictures from last week, so let's pop them up there again. Why not? I'm always about keeping the chat happy, engaged. So this was one where we had been out and we walked the same path all the time. So very familiar with, especially after a couple of weeks, very familiar with what's there and what's not there. So the fact that this happened and we was out there 3 days a week, most weeks, Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I do believe it was between Tuesday and Saturday that disappeared on the ground. And this was big. I mean, this was well over 6 feet. It covered the whole path. And at first I thought it was just an asterisk, but then when you look at the picture, you can see a border all the way around it. Linda says it was Wednesday, so I'll take her word for it. She's probably got the date on the picture looking at it. Yeah, great big intertwined all the way around. So to me, it looks more like a dream catcher. So for a while, just depended on my schedule when could and couldn't go out to do this. And so my days are mixed up and I didn't write the. Am I planning to explore any area in April? Yes. Not only my area, but I'm going someplace to be interviewed up in Reed City. So while I am there, I do plan on doing some squatching up there because that's a hot spot too. So I think I'll be there the 11th and 12th for the interview. And, and the area that's in is also hot for Dogman. So maybe I will find one or both. Would prefer not to find Dogman. Do I have the cradle picture? Not on me at the moment. That one I would have to dig for because that one's buried. But the cradle one, I'll have to look back. Little Twisted Cobra will be a fun trip. Yeah, this is when I can tell more about it. Then once I do everything, I can tell you everybody what it's about. So, but it's kind of a big deal for me. I'm excited about it. Where's the closest water area around me? Actually, that area is Lake Michigan, so it's huge. It's very close to the beach. Hey, Scott, Marine City, Michigan. No, Reed City. I'm sorry, Reed. This is where I'm going to be filmed at. So, like I said, I can't wait to tell everybody about it because it's a big deal for me. One of these things I never thought would happen is going to happen. So it'll be fun. Well, how Bigfoot researchers, any running water? Yep, we got the Betsy River there. We got the Platte. all kinds of brooks and streams, and there's plenty of water everywhere. There's plenty of food. Scott M. Reed City, Michigan. Yep, that's where I'm going. So it'll be a good time there. But how, yeah, and plenty of deer year round. So that's why I know people talk about them being migratory. Uh, I I don't think these ones are, because the food source is so plentiful, and not only that, I showed the track earlier, but let's see. I can even show you a Bigfoot track chasing a deer track in my mind and on my screen. So let's see. So deer tracks here and Bigfoot tracks here. And with that gate and the fact that it cleared this whole bank to get that step, and then this other step's way out of here, the next one is completely out of sight, to me says it's running. Hope you guys in more good areas. Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm very blessed where I'm at. That's for sure. Let's go on to Macomb County, Michigan. I know, Scott, we got to hook up. So we definitely got to compare notes. If you don't chase the deer off and make them mad, yeah, we've done that, haven't we? Get a rock for our effort. Do you have elk in your area? What about bear? No elk that I know of, or have I heard about, but in the area, I haven't seen any bear tracks. I went over this with the DNR. I haven't seen any bear tracks. I haven't seen any bear scat, any bear claw marks, no bears. And hey, Lori. But yeah, just within, a mile or so, there's people sending in pictures with bears on their um, ring cams, literally within a mile of 2 miles, within 2 miles of that area. But for some reason, there's not any bear in that I've come across. And I don't know if maybe because there's a family group in the area, maybe the big ones keep the bears out as because they're a threat. That's pure conjecture on my part. Because there would be plenty of scraps. There's hiking trails out there. People use them. So, found trash out there. It seems like the bears would be drawn to that. But I haven't seen them. There's just nothing there to say that the bears are there. Them are big tracks. That one is a large one. Yeah, that was, literally driving by, and that catches your eye, out of a huge, 1-ton Dodge truck. Definitely stood out. And actually, Bob Daigle looked at this picture, and if anybody of you don't know who Bob Daigle is, we'll go into it real quick. Reed City's 150 miles from me. Bob Daigle is a former, trying to think if he was U.S. intelligence who studied planes footage, the ones that fly really high, and then they take the pictures when they actually had cameras instead of satellites in the planes. And he would take those pictures and magnify them and analyze them for military intelligence as far as bases and the amount of troops in those bases, troop movement. And yeah, these were, and I'll show you because we went back the next day and I tried to recreate this. And I did not do a very good job of it. I look like these deer tracks. It took me 9 or 10, 11 steps to go through here. And even the deer you can see are pushing snow when they walk. Yet here, clean track, clean track. So the fact that it's not bulldozing snow. And like I said, I went back the next day and tried to recreate it. I'm bulldozing snow. I knew I was in the right spot because the cable box is here. When I can figure out a way to shorten the video, I'll put it up because it's actually quite comical to see me doing it. Really is. 6 foot, and I was like 290 at the time, doing my best to leap and look like a walrus trying to walk on my fins. It was hilarious. And then I only got this far, and I got disgusted with the fact I couldn't do it and walk back. So the track we got the next day was the one I showed just a bit earlier, but again, hey, why not? This is one of my favorite pictures. So that is where this picture came from, was the next day in the same area. So size 15 boot here, 23-inch track here. Was that about 12 feet over between the tracks? No, it wasn't quite that far. It looks farther than what it was. I didn't measure them because of the fact, we got followed out that night. And then the next day, some of them had blown over, so I couldn't really get a real good read on how far they were. So it's that snow going up the tree on the right. Well, we'll take a look here. No, that's a cable box. So that's how I knew I was in the right spot when I went back to do the recreation, was because this cable box I got lined up as best as I could. But going back at what I was talking about with Bob Daigle is you can see here what appears to be, and I got zoomed in on it, but of course it pixelates when I zoom in. Nice large black shape, I think is the maker of these. And you can see the head way up here, and then you got a leg way down here. So there's one here that Bob pointed out. This one is actually a butt sticking out with a calf, and then the knee and leg come out around here with the back coming up. So if it's 23 inches, I'm thinking, close to 12 feet. Bob also pointed out that there's something here. So to him, there were three shapes, three squatches, and I thought he was going to rip me apart that night. Not the squatches, but I thought when Bob looked at my pictures, he was going to just say I'm full of crap. And it's your boot. I think it's my boot. Anyway, I know we measured it. It was 23. We'll have to look at that one closer. But hello, unknown cryptid. My first encounter, Scott M. My first encounter was 11. My cousin trailer Bigfoot knocked on the wall, and I seen him walk away. I was 11 years old. I'm 46 now. Well, that would definitely spark my curiosity into the cryptids. Did you find tracks and stuff out there beside it, or it's knocking on the walls, kind of crazy. So, that was in Rapid City. That's cool because I lived in Rapid City. That, to me, that's always been would look like prime location. Oh, getting tracks are hard to find. Yeah, especially anything that's castable. Depending on your area. Then it was walking. You have about a 5-foot step between tracks. Oh, between both tracks, yeah. Yeah, that could be. I thought you meant 12 feet between the tracks, not the. I see what you're saying now. Robert Lawton, I've seen him 4 times. That's cool. You've seen them. See, there's so many people out there seeing them, and yet there's so many people who. And were they all in the same area, Robert? That was my guess. Between the tracks was close to 8 to 9 feet. I say 12 to me. That just trying to think back, seemed a little big. But if you're going step to step, that would be okay. Next experience was 13. He was by a tree, and I was passing by on a dirt bike. Robert says with those, oh no, within 2 miles. So to me, if you're in the same area and you see it once, because if they don't go anywhere, probably see them again. And if they do go where they go once, they keep going until people invade their space and push them out, or another clan pushes them out. But which is what I think is happening in my area, because all the old tree structures got torn down and new ones are put up, and they're bigger and they're higher. The last time I was out there. Uh-oh. Got to be close to the hour. Yep, we're close to the hour mark. I was going to say Bear is starting to bark, so we had to be close. One looked like Harry and the Hendersons. That was, I've never had a real good look at the face. I've had sightings, gotten a real good look at the bodies, a couple times. The one time was hilarious because I'm sitting there walking down the road. One was crossing by the roadway hunting deer, and one was in my garden eating onions. They stayed in the area for about 2 years. That's amazing. Yeah, see, if the food's there, why would they go anyplace else? And where are you out of, Robert, if I can ask? I saw the one's face from 15 away. That's close. That's being able to read the pimples on the nose and probably even smell what he had for breakfast on his breath. I didn't get a good look. Literally just thought there was someone watching me. Laura, I didn't know you had an experience, so that's awesome. Is that how you got into it too? Seen a huge stream catcher exit 202 of 75 Forest Lake. I'm hearing more and more about them. I got to keep my eyes open more because down in Manistee, I got pointed out a couple things as far as glyphs as well, which when I looked at it, I'm like, what? And then he pulled it up on his phone and typed it in, and sure enough, um, it looked like an A with one side longer, but it was some type of ancient glyph. Cherries are delicious. Yes, they are. Good old fashioned cherry. Oh man, now we're gonna get me hungry and I can't have it. St. Lawrence County, New York. Oh, New York. Anywhere near Whitehall. When I hear New York, first thing I think of is Whitehall, and the whole people seeing it there by the jerky outlet. That makes sense. I did and didn't realize, and yes, with that and in search of. Yeah, in search of, I think, I don't know how close, I'm 54, Lori. I don't know how close you are to me, but, having my grandma's house go on and hearing about Bigfoot before I can even remember, and then turning around and watching In Search of when they played the Patterson Gimlin film, pointing to the TV, asking my dad, is that what's at grandma's house? Is that what's at grandma's house? And he's like, well, yeah, but not that one. That's a different one, but yep, that's what's out at grandma's house. So until I hit kindergarten, I didn't know Bigfoot wasn't even supposed to exist. I was the little weirdo in the group. What do you mean it's not real? How Bigfoot researchers, their faces look humans, the skin of their faces dark like people. Yeah, that dark leather. So never gotten a real good look, but the body mass is just enormous. Robert Lawton, way north of Whitehall. Oh, so yeah, you are up in the country a bit, so probably close. What mountain range goes through there? Anyway, I know the woods are thick because now you're getting up into even really big Bigfoot because of the dense of the forest and stuff. When people hear New York, they always think of the city, and it's nothing, but there's a lot of land out there for them. 63s to 70s was the thing. Yep, there you go. So we're not too far apart. You can probably remember more of the shows than I can. Yes, they were. Such a different time. 70s and 80s. I mean, they were so good that the music is even coming back. You got the bands touring again. Thankfully, they don't need walkers or wheelchairs because Joe Elliott from Def Leppard can still hit the high notes just like taking his time. You know, with some of the other ones, as we saw with, I hate to say it because I love the guy's music, but Billy Ray Cyrus and the White House performance, if you want to call it a performance, was like, oh, what are you doing in these last 20 years since I saw you in concert? M64, I've never seen them in this area. Scott M, we had rocks at acorn shells thrown at our tent and eye shine at the Forest Lake campgrounds. You know where that is, where the dam broke and lost the water. And they're like, oh, yeah. All right. That went a lot quicker than I thought it was going to. Definitely another fun one tonight, going over pictures with people who may have. Billy Ray cannot do anything but produce money making kids. Yeah, that seems to be where we're at with poor Billy. You know, that hairdo and oh man, I miss the achy breaky heart days. Now it's achy breaky Billy. Or Dun Gone Silly Billy. There we go. Yeah, it's sorry. You know, some people handle things well, and 59 have about 20 in the last 5 years. Really? How close are you to Michigan, or are you down in the middle of the state, land of the lakes area? I had too, Laura. I saw him in 3 different concerts when he was up here. And um, he was amazing in concert. And even when I saw him 3 times, and all 3 times, even when security, Rebecca, you're welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Missed you. You know, we got to get the sweet and toe back out and hopefully uh, do it. Oh, you're welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. But anyway, as I was telling Lori here, he made security wait to clear the stage until he signed every last autograph of every last person that was there. And people were giving him stuff, and I was even, you know, in Billy Ray shock. So the 3rd time I saw him, I took a T-shirt and gave it to him. And if you watch the video, Heart of a Woman, that he's wearing that shirt under his flannel. I about fell off my chair when I saw that. Lateral, yeah, there's some good pictures, Lateral. You're going to enjoy the replay. Because, yeah, no humans there. He was. It was absolutely amazing. Amazing shows. One of my favorite concerts of all times to go to. And like I said, I've got 3 different sets of autographs because he was there 3 times. Little Twisted Thanks, great show. Brian, come back soon. Okay, I'll be back Friday night. So we will, on that note, call her a night. And thank you all. Appreciate you. You know, you guys actually make this podcast. it's fun for me, and if you guys make it fun for me. So without you guys and being engaged with you guys, um, I don't think I would last this long doing it. So I don't do it to get on here and just preach. I get on here to chat with you, answer questions for you, and so I do this for the people who enjoy it. When people stop enjoying it or it feels like it's a job, then we'll move on to other things. But I hope to be here a very long time. I hope to have more stuff for you, and we will talk to you all very soon.